Just in from Target, they announced plans to close 9 locations.
One big issue from retailers this past quarter, theft, commonly referred to as shrink.
You've seen these viral videos showing flash mob style smash and grabs. That theft is hitting profits at some of the biggest retailers, including Target, Walgreens, and Home Depot. Mentions of organized retail crime on company earnings calls went up by 43% from January through August of 2023. One of the buzzwords on those calls was shrink, an industry term to describe any hit to inventory. Shrink-related losses hit $112 billion in 2022. Organized retail crime isn't just impacting margins. Retailers say the theft is more violent now than ever. In response, they're doing what once would have been unthinkable, partnering with their direct competitors to use an AI-driven heat map that'll enable retailers to share real-time crime data with each other, all in the hopes of stopping theft before it hits any store. But if theft creeps in anyway, AI-powered surveillance will be listening in. This is what's next in retail theft prevention.
We've got what we call the engagement lab.
Can we take a look?
Absolutely.
All right, let's get in here.
It's the only place in the world like it. All of this is really, but they can see almost 400 different technologies in the same place.
That's Reed Hayes. He's the head of the University of Florida's Loss Prevention Lab, which has taken in more than 400 anti-theft technologies from dozens of companies.
Customer service is on the way to your aisle to help you immediately.
The lab evaluates how effective the tech could be in the real world.
We set up the simulation, or sim lab as we call it, to allow us to do more rapid research and learnings. We put active criminal offenders in here, we put shoppers, we put employees, and we can look at different areas, and we can do it much more rapidly, and we can do it without disrupting the actual store.
Reed and his team are funded by the university and by the Loss Prevention Research Council. That's a group of nearly 100 of the most recognizable retailers. They pay an annual membership fee of $6,500 per year to access Reed's research.
What is the next big technology that retailers have gotten really excited about when they visit the lab?
Really, artificial intelligence, AI, computer vision that can spot somebody that might be concealing goods, obviously bringing a firearm or a cutting instrument into the store. They're interested in AI that can pick up screaming, glass breaking, gunshots, but also helping us analyze activity at a more macro scale using mapping and AI.
Reed says he's using AI-powered mapping in a way it's never been used before, and in a way that encourages retailers to collaborate with their biggest competitors.
The redder that they are, the hotter they are, the more crime risk in that area.
The map uses AI to predict future crime events by pulling in data from as many sources as possible, from law enforcement to the retailers themselves. That data creates hotspots on the map, which participating retailers can see. The next step, equipping stores with two-way radios and an app that'll automatically notify managers if a crime happens at a nearby store.
Could something like this prevent theft from happening at all?
It better, it should.
The theft problem is a difficult one to quantify. One report from the National Retail Federation attributed nearly half of shrink for 2021 to organized retail crime. The NRF later retracted that claim. In congressional testimony, one economist said organized retail crime is responsible for just about 5% of total retail inventory losses.
Where do you think the disconnect is in that data?
What we do is we look at retailer data. So if we rely on public information, law enforcement information, that's very inaccurate. Not their fault. They only know what people tell them.
Retailers say it's hitting company profits. In 2022, Lowe's lost nearly $1 billion, more than 1% of their net sales. Target projected a nearly $500 million hit, all due to shrink. And retailers are paying up to try and stop it. One survey showed that more than 52% of retailers say they're spending more money on theft prevention. And for good reason. Over 60% of people called their most recent experience with locked cases, the primary tool for theft prevention, inconvenient. 20% said they'd rather order online than wait for an employee. And that's a problem for retailers that are already competing with e-commerce. That's why retailers are increasingly interested in giving the customer more autonomy through innovations like Face ID technology.
I put in my cell phone number. I would get a code to my phone, and then I would type in that code here,
And now the case is open. But I have to give up my cell phone number.
That's right. But think about how much we give up online. We give our name, our address, our credit card number, all this information, phone numbers, email, just to buy online.
Could this eventually be Face ID technology?
Yeah, that way you can say, hey, here I am. I'm not in a database of stealing from here. It opens for you.
I don't know about you, Reed, but I've had to wait for an employee to come unlock a case for me before. Is this a way to get around that?
It really is. But what we're doing specifically is trying to get them to use two hands to select the item. It's like a, kind of a carnival game. We're going to create a little bit of friction, right? So you're not having to find and wait for an employee, but it's going to be make it a lot more difficult to steal it.
When locking up items isn't enough, some retailers are turning to additional forms of surveillance.
Body cameras have become a lot more prevalent in law enforcement, but we're seeing retailers use them as well. I'm wearing one right now. Talk to me about how the use of a body camera can both prevent theft, but also increase safety.
Right, so we'll put safety first here, and the body-worn cameras are designed to do just that, to create a safer environment in these enclosed spaces for the employee and for the consumers, right? And so that's why they started in law enforcement, was to civilize behavior, is a term used in criminology, that the wearer and the others in the environment realize are on camera and probably will temper their behavior a little bit, maybe back it down so we don't escalate, or we can de-escalate. And it also documents situations as well. And finally, you can use the video from the body-worn cameras for training.
I'm curious about the ripple effects here, because it's not just the stealing in the store, it's also the reselling. Can you talk about what your research has shown you on that?
Sure, I mean, that's part of it, right? The people are stealing for themselves. Some of them are stealing because they're embarrassed to buy, but we're seeing this surge really in stealing to convert stolen goods to cash. It's become a lot easier to do that online in certain neighborhood places like barbershops and beauty shops or bars or clubs. So I think that's a big part of what's going on. So you look at those aftermarkets because they create an artificial demand for stolen goods, a lot of goods, right? So that's been something that you now have to address. All right, how do we look at those theft demand centers that create that demand, those fences, if you will, as well as the offenders, their groups and networks, the tools that they use and things like that. So we're looking at all that before and after. We call it left and right of bang, as well as what we're doing while they're kinetic in that store to make it harder, riskier, and less rewarding for the thief.
I noticed that one of your members is a third-party reseller, you could say. Have you noticed an increased appetite from third-party sellers to work with retailers to prevent this problem?
Absolutely. Companies like Shopify, eBay, Real, Amazon, and it goes on, the .coms for the retailers themselves that sell a lot of goods, they're all here, and they're all at the table together, and all working to figure out how they can collaborate, cooperate with each other, cooperate with law enforcement at the federal, state, and local level. So yes, that's all going on.
To find better solutions, retailers are coming together at events like the NRF's annual Big Show in New York City. That's one of the biggest retail conferences. There, I caught up with Reed again, this time with one of his lab members.
We went down to visit Dr. Hayes in his lab. We had an ideation meeting for a day or so, and great takeaways from that.
That's Mike Lamb, who's done asset protection for decades, working for Home Depot, Walmart, and just before retirement, Kroger.
I'm seeing more of this collaboration than perhaps ever in my 4 decades plus of being in this space, and it's so refreshing to see that.
That's why we exist as a council. 94 retail corporations now, and they want to collaborate, and are figuring out how do we collaborate better for everybody's safety.
Our primary ambition is to do just that, provide that safe environment for both customers and associates. And technology and AI in particular, I think are going to help us along that journey.
Experts in loss prevention we've spoken to say the future of safe shopping lies in AI's ability to prevent a crime before it even happens. The goal for retailers is to not impede the shopping experience. So this is the type of technology shoppers won't see, but it will be there, listening and watching.
We're looking at a whole lot of other AI plays here, picking up on what people are saying, like threatening words or victims' words, things like that we think we can also map more in real time. If somebody comes up and says, give me all the cash, or get on the ground, or go open the safe, things like that, could be indicators. So there's all these things that we want to look at and get that information in real time to the right people.
Would that trigger a law enforcement?
Probably not a law enforcement response initially. Somebody would probably validate it very rapidly. We'll have to see though, right? Very early days.
And to what extent are you hearing more about AI this year than you have previously?
Now you're seeing AI everywhere, and I think more of it is for real. Before, I'm not sure if it was really AI.
And seeing it for retail theft prevention as well? Are you seeing that application?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like, we have technologies today that allow us to identify produce, right? So we understand that it's a banana or that it's a bag of apples as opposed to something else. So it improves inventory accuracy, improves the customer experience, and oh, by the way, it helps us reduce loss at Kroger. So the relationship we have tied to AI, and in particular in this case Everseen, has been very valuable to the organization on many fronts, not just the shrink front.
Over 90% of U.S. retail respondents to one survey plan to increase their AI investments this year. But questions remain about the legality and privacy of AI-powered surveillance. At the end of 2023, the Federal Trade Commission banned Rite Aid from using AI facial recognition technology. They said Rite Aid's practices contributed to the risk of consumers experiencing discrimination. The FTC also issued a general warning to companies using biometric surveillance, indicating that they'll be cracking down on misuse of that technology, which retailers like Rite Aid implemented to curb theft. And it's not just about retailers collecting information.
I think we just, as law enforcement, need to be smart about where we're collecting information from and how, we would traditionally collect that information, whether it be through legal process or not. We always say responsible use of machine learning and data analytics and different, technologies will help us be better at our job.
That's Special Agent Mike Kroll, who oversees the Department of Homeland Security's Operation Boiling Point, an effort aimed at fighting the rise in organized retail crime, which he testified on in front of Congress.
HSI initiated Operation Boiling Point 2.0 to effectively communicate the severity of organized theft groups involved in retail crime.
To help track the severity of theft, Kroll's team created an AI-powered tool called Raven that uses machine learning to consolidate crime data across multiple jurisdictions, all in an effort to find links between individual crimes.
So I think last year we had about a 200% increase in our investigations related to organized retail crime.
Is it fair to say that the scope of retail theft reached somewhat of a boiling point where the Department of Homeland Security needed to get involved?
The threats we face are well beyond your traditional brick and mortar, stealing of toothpaste and health and beauty products. We're into sophisticated networks, many Chinese organizations who have taken to the cyber realm to conduct intrusions and other technical methodologies to steal information, to steal items, and then to turn that into a profit. People just want to make money.
How often are you getting leads from retailers?
Every day. We can no longer fight these criminal networks with one hand behind our backs. We need the best tools, the best data sets, the best analytics, the best equipment to help us, really resolve these crimes rather than just kind of fight them.
And I know one tool you have is Raven.
Raven is really our answer to, coordinating, consolidating, and bringing together disparate data sets to help our agents be better at their job. To find those efficiencies of scale in data analytics and data sets so that they don't have to spend hours and hours and hours combing through data and emails and search warrant returns. It's really our answer to using machine learning to our benefit.
As retailers work to address a problem that HSI says is increasingly severe, Reed says consumers' privacy concerns will still need to be prioritized by retailers and law enforcement.
When it comes to pushback, I don't know that we've had any pushback from a current or potential crime victim, but there are people outside that are concerned. I think more and more of the retailers are saying we've got to safeguard our people in these spaces. So now they're putting things that would arguably invade someone's privacy, but nobody goes to jail based on an alert on any kind of AI technology. It's a heads up, decision maker, and then you make the call what you want to do.